Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths. And welcome back to From the Depths Quick Guides. And hopefully this is actually going to be quick, because the topic is not quick, despite the name I've given it, which is the Simple Walker Guide. So, for those of you who don't know, walkers are incredibly difficult both in real life and in From the Depths. But I have recently, found a way to make a kind of simple one, or at least a simpler than you might expect one, which involves spin blocks, ACBs, and PIDs, and you don't need to touch lure or breadboards or anything like that for this kind of walker. And to start off with, we're going to look at the walker I made first as just a kind of experiment to get used to how the feet work. The sticky feet being over here in land, and this is how walkers work, basically. It will simulate terrain friction, help a walker move forwards on terrain, provides friction on the ground. Useful for creating a simple walker or crawler, which is exactly what we've been doing. Highly adjustable too. So what on earth is this thing? Well, with these walkers, there's like two ingredients to them. Firstly is the ACB setup that gets their legs moving. And secondly is the PID system that keeps them stable, because walkers are inherently unstable due to the fact that, they've got legs. You think walking's easy until you remember that it takes about 2, 3, maybe 4 years for your average human being to learn how. So trying to get a machine to walk is a real pain in the butt, and that includes in From the Depths. So, looking at this setup right here, you'll notice that this thing has a lot of feet. And it has 4 spin blocks, 2 on each side, that kind of act as leg wheels. And the way it works is pretty straightforward. This is possibly as simple as walkers can possibly get. Arguably, they're not even walkers, this is more of a crawler. If propulsion command is forward, we'll activate complex control T. So if I'm in the control seat, if I hit T, the spin blocks, they spin. If the propulsion command is reverse, we'll activate complex control G. If I do that, this thing will shoot off into space because the feet aren't rigged for reverse gears. So we just went flying, that's okay. And if propulsion command is none, we'll set spin block rotation speed to 0 radians per second. So this one's very important because if I activate T, and that's it, it's activated, so we do need that spin block right there if you're going to use this particular ACB setup. So that's, you don't have to use these complex keys, by the way, it's just any complex key will do, so long as it's consistent with what you've stuck on the spin blocks, which in this case is, it's set to continuous, this one's continuous reverse, and the one on this side is set to continuous because the way the spin blocks are orientated makes a big difference. So if we go here, you'll see that this one is set up so that the top of the spin block is facing outward, away from the vehicle, and it's the same thing on this side. You see that it's set out away from the vehicle, and if you do not do that, if you just have one spin block and set it up like that on both sides, for one thing, your feet are going to be in the wrong direction, so if you do this, note the way the feet are orientated. The feet are backward over there, and that is no good. And also, it means that when this thing spins forward, so if we do this, you'll notice that the front is spinning not correctly. In fact, it's not even responding to the ACB to turn it off, so that's not good. Alright, so there's that, and the PID system on this particular walker is quite a simple one. It's just general pitch, general roll, and they have exactly the same settings. 0.1 gain, integrals off, derivative time is 0.5, nothing fancy, nothing particularly mind-blowing, and the end result is something that can walk, or at least crawl, or at least spin its legs, cartoon style. And the stabilization is something I wish I could do without, but as I mentioned, with these walkers, you kind of need that, otherwise they will just be really unstable. And the end result is, it's passable, I guess. For a first test walker, this one isn't too bad. But moving right along, having done this, I decided let's actually make something with proper legs, and the end result actually turns out quite nicely. Never spawn your walkers in the ground, because otherwise they freak out. So this is a quad walker, and it's still similar principles. It's still got ACBs controlling the legs, and PIDs just for stability. And the first important thing to note is when building a walker with real legs, or a simple walker with real legs, is that you'll notice what the legs are made of. It's half alloy and half heavy armor. It doesn't need to be strictly those materials, but the heavier the bottom of the legs are, the lower the center of mass will be. You'll notice the center of mass is quite low, and the lower this is, the more stable the thing will be, because previously the entire leg of this particular walker was alloy, and it means that it fell over a lot more easily. In this particular case, since the bottom of the legs are so heavy, if it does fall over, it's probably never getting back up again, but it's much less likely to fall over now that it's got heavy foots. So that's an important thing. And the ACB setup actually relies on a slave condition ACB, and this is it. So it's got it has no target in action. It just activates when the propulsion command is forward, and the two ACBs on either side of it are slaved to this conditioned ACB, and it activates. This one activates every 0.5 seconds, and if propulsion command is forward, will rotate spin blocks to -10 degrees. And this one is almost the same, except it activates every 1 second if propulsion command is forward, and will rotate spin blocks to 10 degrees. So that means you get a nice alternating stride, which I will demonstrate right now. So right here, you see the legs are activated and the thing is shuffling along quite nicely. Not exactly Star Wars levels of aesthetics, but it does the trick. So yeah, you might be thinking, why is this thing walking like a camel with alternated legs? Well, I did try. For those of you who don't know, like the way that four-legged things in real life work, they have an alternating gait, so not what this is doing. It'd be like the front left and the front right will move towards each other, and while the front right and back left will move opposite to each other, and then it switches back and forth. That does not seem to work with this, so if we go rotate angle reverse and rotate angle reverse, like here, and we go over here, that still works. Never mind, I'm a filthy liar. That works just nicely. Didn't work before. It is having trouble. Ah, no. Now I remember why I didn't do this. This screws with the turning because it means you have friction going in opposite directions. And this thing does have turning thrusters, which are necessary. But yeah, so rotate angle. That. Oh, this is hilarious. There we go. And having that kind of camel gait just allows it to actually steer a little bit better, because it means that it's only exerting friction on one side at a time, which gives the turning thruster something to work with. And so yeah, PID settings are the same as before. 0.1, off, 0.5, 0.1, off, 0.5, just pitch and roll. And let's see here, yeah, and feet settings, I forgot to mention the feet settings. So feet settings, the one thing that you absolutely always need is current friction. Forwards friction is set to 1, because that means that when the foot kind of pulls on the ground, it'll actually pull the vehicle forward. And on this particular spinny one, clearance is set to max, stickiness is set to 100, because that seems to work with what I've got here. Over here, it's slightly different settings. So clearance is just 1, stickiness is 50, and I wish I could say why I need to set it like this, but I don't know. That's just through messing around late at night and just trying to get it to work. Love how it just skids to a stop like that. So, that's the quad walker, and out of the 3 walkers I'm showing you, I really would recommend like a quad walker or more legs like this, because I don't know, this one isn't really a walker, so to speak, and it's basically you could get better results with wheels anyway. This one has real legs, and what I'm about to show you is incredibly derpy. So that is my attempt at building a biped walker. And I needed to mess with this quite a bit to get it to work the way I wanted, because this is difficult. Like, it's a wonder. Having built this thing, you really do have to wonder why any animal walks on 2 legs, especially human beings, because it seems like such a stupid idea. Like, really unbalanced. And so the ACB setup, though, is exactly the same as what's over on the Quad Walker. So propulsion command is forward, it gets the spin blocks to alternate their rotation. And I should mention as well, just like over on this guy, these are not the same kind of spin blocks, because the spin block is set to different... It's two different spin blocks, basically. The top of the spin block is facing outward, and so you can actually get it to rotate to its correct degrees, and you just need one ACB setup controlling both the legs. You also notice that also the same PID setup as well, so same as before, same principles, works on multiple things. And feet settings, very similar. Well, it's actually similar to the first one. I have no idea why I needed to set the stickiness to max on this one, rather than on the quadrupedal walker. And clearance is set to 5, it just seems to like that better. Also longer legs, by the way. Same principle, bottom of the foot is more heavy to lower the center of mass. And yeah, you might also be wondering why this thing has a head and a tail. This is to maximize the pitch control, because when I first built this, it didn't have this head, it didn't have this tail, it kind of cut off right here, right here, and the thing was pitching back and forwards just an awful lot. I was wondering what was going on. As it turns out, mimicking real life, like the fact that dinosaurs had long tails to balance out their front bits, and balancing, and just, I don't know, birds don't really have that, they do have tails for balance and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, if you've got a setup like this where the leg comes straight down, you kind of need something front and back in order to keep it in place. And it's actually a miracle this thing is even able to stand still, because if I spawn this thing in the ground, it takes forever to get itself back under control. And also lots of roll props, and if you're making a walker, do bear in mind you're going to have to fiddle. Well, at least if you make a walker using this method, you're going to have to fiddle with the settings of all these little jets. And in this particular case, this front jet is way more powerful than any other jet on there, because it tends, for some reason, this thing tends to tip backward. And also the jets that are pointing down are much weaker than all the jets facing up, because if I don't do that, this thing's made mostly of alloy, it tends to go airborne, which is no good. So if we get this guy walking, he shuffles off like that, in a very janky manner, does manage to turn around, and goes wibbly wobbly wibbly wobbly. So, at the very least, with how I've set up this particular walker, I wouldn't strap guns to it, because it's a very unstable firing platform. This kind of walker, if you want to make a combat mech, oh jeez, it is really wiggling around a lot. Yeah. Not super good work, bipeds are quite hard, but at least it's walking. And if you are going to stick guns on a walker, I do recommend using 4 legs or more. And if you actually want decent all-terrain, I'd recommend the first one. So, go here, get all our walkers moving in the same direction. Walkie, 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 walkie. They are fun to watch, though. Oh, he's tap dancing. Yeah, if I had time before making this video, I would have experimented with putting extra spin blocks lower down to kind of mimic knee and ankle joints. But that could be quite difficult. Yeah. So that's basically it. It's just that PID setup and that ACB setup, and just setting up your spin block legs on the right side. So let's go sit on this guy, because this guy's far the most stable and far the most fun. So that's basically it for... Well, no, that's not basically it. Whoops, wasn't looking at my notes. So we're just going to talk about the pros and cons of making walkers, because they're mostly for style points, I'm going to have to say, because there's pretty much nothing that a walker can do in From the Depths that you can't build a tank to do a lot better and a lot more simply. So one advantage is that getting sticky feet and spin blocks together working like this, these aren't requiring any power whatsoever. These legs are not requiring any engine power to move the craft forward, and it is moving forwards entirely just using the friction of the sticky feet, which is pretty cool. And the thrusters don't require much power either. You can look down there. It's using, what, like, at maximum 40 engine power, and that's it. So, weirdly cheap, actually, despite the fact it's got RTGs on it. So yeah, it's actually a pretty like, it's a cost-effective way of getting a craft moving. The problem is that it's very complex, and it's not as fast as just using wheels or tracks or even thrusters. And the low friction of feet, though, means that if you do stick a thruster on the back of it, the thing does go zoom quite nicely. So now we're going like 35 meters per second, and this particularly stable walker, it's like, it looks like it's moonwalking forwards, actually. It's quite hilarious. The problem with that is that if you stick a thruster on the back of your walker, you might as well make a thruster craft. And also if this falls over, that's kind of it. And so I can demonstrate that by spawning one with its legs in the ground. Boing! And it managed. Let's try that again. Yep, that's it. So this poor fella is not going to correct himself, like, ever. And even if I get him to start walking, nope. Nope, that's not going to work. Poor soul. Poor soul. And the only thing then is just to go here and hit caps lock. Get him off the ground and away he goes. So yeah, walkers mainly for style points. I am definitely going to try and build like a walker for my Ashes of the Empire campaign, because now that I know how to make a simple one, I really, really want to. I want to make like total Star Wars ripoff kind of thing. So yeah, that's do it for style points, and thankfully here's a simple way to do it. So thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or through YouTube membership if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell!